She was just a maid. At least that's what everyone thought. But when a billionaire overhears her speaking perfect French behind the walls of a luxury hotel, her hidden brilliance is discovered. At 23, Elena Moreau moved like a shadow through the marbled halls of the Lorient Imperial Hotel. With her cocoa-brown skin, neat bun tucked under a maid's cap and deep-set almond eyes full of unspoken dreams, she was invisible to most. But in the silence of empty suites, Elena whispered aloud in flawless French, conjugating verbs, quoting Voltaire, reciting passages she'd memorized by heart. Born in a crumbling suburb outside of Atlanta to Haitian immigrants, Elena's life had been stitched together with sacrifice and silence. Her father worked 3 jobs before vanishing one winter, and her mother, before passing, left Elena with one prized possession, a pocket recorder filled with bedtime stories and affirmations in French. Language is your bridge, chérie, never stop crossing it. So Elena studied. Every break, every pause in cleaning duties, she devoured grammar books and audio courses, hiding them inside detergent crates. She had no degree, no papers, and no future, except the one she dared to whisper to herself in a language no one thought she knew, until the day someone did. It was a Tuesday afternoon, quiet as usual, when Elena sat cross-legged in the staff locker room, murmuring French poetry under her breath while folding towels. Her soft voice carried through the cracked door. Unbeknownst to her, standing outside was Adrian Castellane, 45, sharply dressed in a cashmere trench coat with olive-toned skin, salt and pepper curls, and piercing eyes honed by a life of global diplomacy and luxury enterprise. A tech mogul turned global investor, Adrian had checked into the hotel incognito to escape a scandal brewing back in Geneva. But hearing Elena speak fluent French with an accent more Parisian than provincial made him pause mid-step. He knocked lightly and stepped in. "Excuse me," he said in French. "I believe I just heard a ghost." Elena froze. The towels tumbled from her lap. I didn't mean to," she stammered, now switching to English. No, he smiled. "Stop, your accent is impeccable. Did you study in France?" She shook her head. "Only in dreams." That single sentence, simple and honest, made Adrian lean forward in fascination. For the first time in years he was intrigued by someone not in his inner circle. Adrian didn't speak to the hotel manager immediately. He waited, observed. Over the next 2 days he watched Elena move through the lobby unnoticed, saw the way she calmed a crying child with a warm smile, and brought extra towels to a nervous guest without being asked. When he finally approached the hotel's director, he didn't ask. He insisted, "That maid, Elena Moreau, move her to international guest relations. Effective immediately." The director blinked. "Sir, she has no formal training." "She doesn't need it," Adrian replied. "She has something better, empathy, fluency, and poise. Let's not waste that." By Friday, Elena stood at the concierge desk in a tailored navy uniform, trembling. The other staff whispered and speculated, but Adrian only offered a small nod as he passed, like a king acknowledging a hidden queen. The navy blue suit felt too stiff, too expensive, too unlike Elena Moreau. She fidgeted at the international guest relations desk, her heart pounding beneath her silk blouse. Her badge gleamed with her name in gold, but she still felt like the girl scrubbing mirrors in silence just days ago. The other staff eyed her with thinly veiled skepticism. Some whispered behind marble columns, others offered smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Elena stood tall anyway, repeating affirmations from her mother's recorder in her mind. "You are more than your job, more than their doubt, more than your fear." Her first test came in the form of a frantic French couple whose honeymoon itinerary had collapsed due to a booking error. Elena sprang into action. With calm precision and fluent Parisian French, she rebooked their accommodations, upgraded their suite, and arranged a surprise riverfront dinner on the house. Within minutes the crisis was over, and the couple left smiling, grateful, and impressed. Adrian Castellane, seated in the cafe nearby, watched everything unfold. A rare, genuine smile crept across his usually composed face. By the end of her shift, Elena's presence at the desk no longer felt like a mistake. She'd been seen, heard, and now needed. The hotel had gained a hidden gem, and the city was about to know her name. Elena hadn't expected Adrian to still be in town. She thought he was just another eccentric billionaire passing through. But as the days turned into weeks, she noticed his pattern. Quiet breakfasts in the corner cafe, late-night walks in the hotel garden, and frequent casual conversations with hotel staff. He was studying them. When he finally invited Elena to join him for tea one rainy afternoon, she hesitated. "I don't want to overstep," she said softly, brushing a stray curl from her face. "You've already stepped into the future," Adrian replied. "Now let's talk about where it leads." Over jasmine tea and delicate pastries, Adrian asked about her life, where she came from, how she learned French, what she wanted beyond the hotel lobby. "No one's ever asked me that," she said, her voice faltering. "Well," he smiled, "I'm not just anyone." Adrian revealed that he was preparing to invest in a hospitality brand that would redefine global guest experiences, one rooted in empathy and diversity. He wanted Elena on the team, not as a figurehead, but as someone with lived experience and vision. "I don't need another executive with a fancy MBA," he said. "I need someone who knows what it means to rise from nothing." Elena's hands trembled, but her heart soared. She wasn't just being promoted, she was being believed in. By the following week, Elena Moreau's office had a view. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the skyline of the city she once cleaned from the shadows. Her title, Associate Director of International Guest Experience. Her salary was quadrupled. She had benefits, an assistant, and a travel allowance. But more than anything, she had a voice. At 23, with glowing cocoa-brown skin, gentle eyes, and soft curls now free from her maid's cap, Elena walked the halls she once mopped, this time in heels and tailored suits. Guests asked for her by name. Staff came to her for advice. And Adrian Castellane, he kept finding reasons to linger in her office with coffee and conversations that wandered past business. Despite her new surroundings, Elena remained grounded. She still played her mother's voice recorder every night. She still helped the janitor with heavy supplies when no one was looking, and she still studied languages, now adding Italian and Mandarin to her daily regimen. But not everyone celebrated her ascent. One person in particular watched from the shadows with envy: Victoria Langford, the longtime head of hospitality development. Polished, ambitious, and ruthless, Victoria had spent years climbing the corporate ladder. She didn't appreciate a maid with a pretty accent skipping rungs. And when the opportunity came, she would strike. One brisk autumn morning, Adrian invited Elena to a high-profile project site in the countryside, the future location of Lorianne's first international retreat center. The construction was still underway, but he wanted her opinion on design flow and guest accommodations. From the eyes of someone who's seen both sides of service, he said. It was her first time outside the city in years. Elena wore a soft gray blazer and carried a notepad, her curls tied back into a sleek ponytail. Adrian, in his signature trench coat and polished boots, walked beside her with casual ease. But something about the structure felt off. She noticed unstable scaffolding near the east wing, unsupervised workers taking shortcuts, and corners being cut on imported materials. She quietly took photos and made notes. Then she caught sight of a name on a clipboard. Langford Holdings. Victoria Langford had cut a side deal, funneling cheap materials and unauthorized labor into the site to pocket the difference. Elena said nothing, for now, but later that night she emailed Adrian everything: photos, notes, records. His reply came quickly: "Meet me on site tomorrow. We'll handle it together." Neither of them knew that tomorrow would change everything and nearly end one of their lives. It was raining when they returned to the site. Elena, now 24, stood beneath the scaffolding near the east wing, pointing out the flaws in the structure to Adrian and a new inspector he'd brought. "Right here," she said, her voice firm. "This beam is held up with nothing but rust and prayer." Adrian nodded. The inspector frowned and began to document. Then a sudden crack sliced through the air. The scaffolding gave way with a violent groan. Beams twisted, bolts popped. A cascade of metal and debris plummeted directly toward Adrian. Without thinking, Elena lunged. She shoved him backward with every ounce of strength she had. The world went black. When Adrian scrambled to his feet moments later, he found Elena crushed beneath a steel beam, unconscious and barely breathing. Blood pooled around her temple, her arms were bent unnaturally, her elegant blazer was soaked and torn. Emergency crews arrived within minutes, but for Adrian, time had already stopped. He rode in the ambulance beside her, whispering over and over, "Hold on, please, hold on." She had saved his life. Now it was his turn to fight for hers. News spread quickly. Maid turned executive saves billionaire in construction collapse became a viral headline. Photos of Elena, before and after the accident, circulated on social media. Strangers lit candles. Former hotel guests left flowers. Haitian communities across the U.S. held vigils. Elena was in a coma for 6 weeks. Adrian never left her side. He moved into the hospital's private wing, sleeping in the chair beside her bed, reviewing files during the day, and reading French poetry aloud to her at night. Every morning he played the same voice recorder Elena kept hidden in her purse. The voice of her mother telling bedtime stories, whispering affirmations. Adrian didn't understand every word, but the rhythm was enough. Victoria Langford, meanwhile, launched a PR campaign, blaming a subcontractor. But Adrian launched a full investigation. When the results came in, there was no doubt. Victoria had overseen the cost-cutting personally. The evidence was irrefutable. She was fired, indicted, blacklisted. But for Adrian, justice meant little without Elena's recovery. And then one morning, as he held her hand and whispered, "You saved me, Elena. Now come back," her fingers twitched, her eyes fluttered, and the world exhaled. The first thing Elena saw when her eyes opened was a ceiling she didn't recognize. Soft light filtered through sheer curtains. Machines beeped steadily beside her. Her entire body ached as if every bone had been rearranged. Panic rose, until she turned her head and saw him. Adrian sat slouched in the armchair beside her, his face drawn with fatigue, his salt and pepper curls messier than usual. But when he saw her eyes flutter open, his exhaustion vanished. "Elena," he whispered, sitting upright, "you're awake." Her lips moved, but her throat was dry. A nurse rushed in, calling doctors. Adrian didn't let go of her hand. In the days that followed, Elena learned the extent of her injuries: fractured ribs, a broken leg, internal bleeding, and a mild brain injury. Her recovery would take months, but she was alive. Adrian visited every day. He brought her flowers, books in French, and updates about the hotel. He also brought a promise: "There's still a place for you when you're ready, bigger than before." Elena's voice was hoarse, but her eyes were steady. "I don't want to just come back," she said. "I want to build something," Adrian smiled. "Then let's build it together." Rehabilitation was brutal. Elena had to relearn how to walk, how to speak with clarity, how to manage pain that throbbed deep into her bones. But she faced each challenge with the same quiet resolve that once pushed her through years of invisible labor. She worked with a multilingual therapist, brushing up on French while regaining control of her speech. She practiced writing again, starting with simple lists, then journal entries. Her mother's recorder became her morning ritual, a reminder of where she started. Adrian supported her without smothering her. He gave her space when she needed it, cheered her on when she faltered, and often just sat quietly nearby, offering presence instead of platitudes. By month 3, Elena walked, slowly but steadily, down the hospital corridor in a flowing robe, her soft curls tucked behind one ear, her cocoa-brown skin glowing under the hallway lights. Nurses clapped. Adrian filmed it and sent it to the entire executive team with one sentence: "She's coming back stronger." But Elena wasn't focused on titles or positions anymore. She had something greater in mind, a place where no one with potential would be overlooked again. 6 months after the accident, Elena returned to the Lorient Imperial Hotel, not as an employee, but as a guest of honor. Staff lined the marble foyer, clapping as she walked through the doors, this time in a white suit tailored just for her. Adrian welcomed her with a proud smile and a new title, Chief Cultural and Global Relations Officer. But Elena didn't come back just to resume her old life. She came to introduce a new vision. In the conference hall, she presented the Bridge Initiative, a program that would train, educate, and promote workers from overlooked backgrounds. The initiative would start with multilingual courses for hotel staff, free GED prep, and management apprenticeships for immigrants and service workers. Adrian pledged a $10 million seed fund to kickstart the initiative. Other investors followed. The media called her the maid who changed luxury. But Elena corrected them. "I wasn't just a maid," she said into the microphone. "I was always a leader. I just needed someone to believe it." Elena didn't stop at one initiative. With Adrian's help and her growing influence, she launched the Alvarez Foundation, named in honor of her mother's maiden name, a tribute to the woman who taught her that language and learning were keys to freedom. The foundation's mission was simple: to break the cycle of invisibility for immigrants and underprivileged workers through education and opportunity. It offered free language programs in French, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, and more. It partnered with community colleges to provide hospitality and business certifications. It opened child care centers for working mothers. Elena personally taught beginner French classes every Wednesday evening, still wearing her old maid's cap for the first 10 minutes of every lesson, just to remind her students where she came from. She didn't do it for publicity. She did it for the woman who once whispered French lullabies into a cheap recorder, and for the thousands who'd been told they would never be more. The Alvarez Foundation spread across cities in less than a year, and Elena became more than an executive. She became a symbol. Within months of launching, the Alvarez Foundation ignited a transformation across the hospitality industry. Hotels in London, Dubai, and Cape Town reached out to Elena for guidance. Her philosophy, empathy as currency, culture as capital, spread like wildfire. Companies began rethinking their hiring pipelines. Elena's programs showed that fluency, kindness, and problem-solving didn't need to come with elite degrees. They could come from people cleaning the floors, answering room service calls, and dreaming silently through 14-hour shifts. Elena, now 25, had become a keynote speaker at global conferences. Her soft-spoken grace, deep chocolate-brown eyes, and confident stride captivated audiences. She always wore a pendant shaped like a cassette tape, her mother's voice still close to her heart. Back at the Lorient Imperial, the mood had shifted. Workers walked taller. Staff lounges had language books on every table. Nameplates on uniforms now included flags representing spoken languages. And every new hire received a copy of the bridge manual, written by Elena herself. Adrian watched it all unfold with a quiet pride. She had gone beyond what he imagined. She didn't just change her world, she was changing the world. And yet he still hadn't told her how deeply he felt, but the moment was coming. They had been through fire, figuratively and literally, but Adrian had never confessed what stirred beneath his stoic professionalism. He admired Elena's intelligence, her heart, her ability to disarm a room with a single smile. He'd watched her go from folding towels to folding governments into partnerships. And yet, every time he thought of telling her how he truly felt, something held him back. Perhaps it was her momentum. Perhaps it was his fear that he'd become a distraction to a woman with purpose. Or maybe it was because love for a man like Adrian Castellane, wealthy, twice divorced, with eyes that had seen empires fall, felt dangerous. But Elena sensed it. One night after a fundraising gala where she delivered another breathtaking speech, they walked alone on the rooftop garden of the Lorient. "Why haven't you ever asked me out?" she asked, her voice playful but firm. Adrian paused. "Because I didn't want to interfere with your rise." She turned to face him, her eyes soft. "You didn't interfere, Adrian. You amplified." Silence stretched between them, thick and warm. Then finally he reached for her hand. "Then let me walk with you wherever this leads." She didn't hesitate. "Yes." Their relationship blossomed quietly. They still worked together, challenged each other, debated policies, and fought side by side for better hiring standards across the luxury industry. But now their morning meetings included coffee brought with a kiss. Their late-night brainstorms ended with laughter and a soft hand held across the desk. Elena insisted on keeping their relationship private at first, wary of being seen as a woman who rose because of a man. But Adrian understood. He let her lead, both in work and in love. When they finally went public, it wasn't through a press release. It was a quiet photo at a charity dinner, Adrian's hand resting gently on hers as they spoke to a group of student interns from the bridge program. The photo went viral, not because of scandal, but because of sincerity. People saw two equals, two survivors, two visionaries who had lifted each other up, and together they redefined what success and love could look like. On the 5th anniversary of her first day as a maid, Elena returned to the staff locker room she used to hide in, back when she whispered French beneath the hum of fluorescent lights. Now she stood at the doorway with Adrian by her side, wearing a silk blouse and wide-leg trousers, her hair pulled into an elegant twist. On her arm was a young intern, Maricel, a housekeeper from the Philippines, enrolled in the bridge program. "I used to sit right here," Elena said, pointing to the corner bench. "I studied French while folding towels. I thought no one would ever notice me." Maricel looked at her, wide-eyed. "You were really one of us," Elena smiled. "I still am." That day they turned the old locker room into a training hub for aspiring guest services professionals. It was renamed the Dream Room. Above the entrance, engraved in brass, were her mother's words, "Language is your bridge, never stop crossing it." Elena and Adrian's work reached beyond hotels. Governments began implementing her training models for immigrant integration. Schools adopted her foundation's language modules. Elena testified before international panels, arguing for global recognition of invisible workers as future leaders. She wasn't just building bridges, she was building highways. The Alvarez Foundation opened headquarters in 5 countries. Her story was taught in business ethics classes, and at the core of every project remained her unwavering belief that dignity doesn't come from degrees or titles, but from resilience, compassion, and opportunity. Yet, despite the acclaim, Elena remained unchanged. She still visited local cafes, still sent money to her cousins, still answered letters from young women who had read about her and asked, "Can I do it too?" She always replied the same way, "Yes, and I'll help you." Adrian proposed in the gardens behind the new Lorient Retreat Center, the very one that nearly took Elena's life this time. The scaffolding was strong, the pathways were secure, and beneath the stars he held her hand and whispered in fluent French, "Will you build forever with me?" Elena, now 27, smiled through tears. Her answer didn't need translating. The wedding was intimate, no press. Just family, friends, staff, and a choir of immigrant children who sang in 5 languages. They danced to a song from her mother's voice recorder, restored and remastered. The entire hotel wept. Adrian and Elena didn't just share a life, they shared a mission. Together, they led a movement. Years later, Elena stood before a crowd of students at the Bridge Academy. Now a full university campus. Behind her were banners in dozens of languages. In front of her were hundreds of students from every corner of the world. "You are not invisible," she told them. "You are not broken. You are not background noise. You are the main character." The crowd rose in applause. She smiled at Adrian in the front row, older now, but still watching her like she was made of starlight. Her journey had started in silence, but now her voice moved nations. If you were inspired by Elena's journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories of resilience, love, and transformation. Your next favorite story is just one click away.